This was tomatoes from James's yard, or these are the tomatoes from James's yard.
Holy smokes, that's awesome.
Yeah,
what is it,
that's a
about
lot of
6 boxes?
No, 4. But, well, they're too full. I'm hoping that I didn't squish too many. This is what James harvested.
Well, that was just foraging. That was the gleanings after you finished.
Yeah.
My back has been very bad. So.
Let's see, that looks a bit better, I think. Anyway, you go ahead. You're going to be reviewing
You're
the
not
Bible.
talking
Oh,
about
yeah, I was going to...
Wicked pray.
I finished this off, and it didn't get any better. Honestly, it
got worse.
Well...
I like the way you bookmarked there, though.
Yeah, you like that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving people seeds when they take my books.
So she...
I staple some tomato seeds in there. So I put down page 361, 363. The author teaches us how to make a GE crack pipe. In case you want to know.
General Electric?
Out of a light bulb.
Oh, okay.
And then it just gets really bad from there. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Unless you want to read about some child getting anally raped and stuff like that.
Yeah, Wicked Prey, Sanford New. So what's the background of this butthead? Does it say? It's a pseudonym of Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist John Camp.
It must be October 10th today then, right?
The Kid novels.
10th?
I believe so, yeah. The Night Crew, 10th of October, 2021. He lives in Minnesota, so they put up with him there. So we were talking about Minnesota the other day. Hello to folks out there. Up on the Mesabi Range, where hopefully they still have some iron left. Stuff like that. Hibbing, Minnesota, we're talking about that. That's where Abraham, not Lincoln, came from, but Abraham Dillon came from. That's Bob Dylan's dad. Well, did I say Abraham Dillon? Abraham Zimmerman. That's Bob Dylan's real last name. It means timberman or carpenter, actually, in German. And Bob Dylan changed his name. Robert Zimmerman. So yeah, it was kind of bothersome when Bob Dylan did the song Highway 61 Revisited, and I realized what it said. God said to Abraham, "Kill me a son." Well, what's that? Of course, it's about the killing of Isaac. I hope Abraham Zimmerman treated Bob Dylan right. I think he raised a pretty good guy there. So. There's been a whole lot worse folks to come tumbling down into rock and roll. So you finished with the Prey interview. The food here, Pauline, isn't even focused on because it's leftovers. It's leftovers from last night. Though I do like the way she's packaged the leftovers. Grapefruit
I stuck it in the cantaloupe.
Into the cantaloupe. That's an awesome bit of artistry there. So, so, as promised or threatened, I'm going with the Holy Bible, Batman. And it's just the Old Testament. But to say it's just the Old Testament means I've basically gone through 3/4 of the Bible, or 4/5 if you include the
if you're
Catholic.
If you're a Christian, you really the Old Testament is just there for so you know where Christianity came from, kind of thing.
It's there for background.
Yeah, for background. And if you're a Christian who's like, yeah, I believe in that Old Testament justice.
Like Leviticus 20:13, where it's stoning for being gay.
You're actually not a Christian.
You're not a Christian.
You're not a Christian at all. You really missed the point.
Yeah.
And you need to go back to reading the Bible.
You've got to read the Bible.
Because it's all about the New Testament.
It's all about the New Testament.
If you're a Christian, that's what you're following.
That's what I was taught.
What would Jesus
and I
do?
think, Yeah, what would Jesus do? What is it? NSYNC used to wear that on their. What would Jesus do? He'd do pelvic thrusts. A bunch of adolescent girls.
Exactly. That's what he'd do.
Yeah, actually, I think they should have one for what would Jesus do on one wrist, and then what will Jesus do? Because Jesus is a nice guy, but in the afterworld, in the Last Judgment, he's going to be making judgment on people. And Joel Osteen should have that. What is that? Osteen? Is that his name? Something like that. That creep with the. He's another one of those hairstyles. Like there are hairstyles on the right wing, there are hairstyles on the left wing, and hairstyles all over the place. So Edward Said hairstyle, Justin Trudeau hairstyle, Joel Osteen hairstyle. So Little Richard actually was a hairstyle, but a whole lot more. So he did some preaching too, apparently. Probably a whole lot better when he had his foot on the piano keyboard and was rocking and rolling. When he cut his hair off. Well, I guess he wasn't a hairstyle. He'd cut his hair off and stuff like that. He was pretty amazing. Amazing hairstyle, amazing piano stylings and vocal stylings too. Pretty impressive. But back to the gospel. No, this is pre-gospel stuff.
Yeah.
So I blasted through it. No, I didn't blast through it. I don't blast through anything really. I just work my way through it. Generally slowly, but I'm pretty happy with the way this went because it's important not just to read the Bible. I think it's important. The Bible, Quran, what else? Probably the Communist Manifesto. I was going to say the Manifest Communist, but a Manifest Commie or something like that. But I think it's important to read all of these things in one sitting, or not one sitting, but as close as you can to one sitting.
So that you can do some comparative literature.
Comparative stuff, and actually, so you'll be proof to people saying, oh, like the New Testament is so violent. I mean, Jesus tells his disciples to bring weapons to his last evening on earth. And yeah, he does. And one disciple takes up the offer. And that's Peter. And when Jesus is being so-called arrested, he's just being kidnapped, basically. But it's by the authorities, so I guess it's a form of state terrorism or something like that. Peter draws the sword and whips off the ear of one of the, I think he's just a servant of the...
But the whole point of that is Jesus heals it.
Yeah. And so, you see, like, you got to read it in context. He heals it. He says, Peter, put up thy sword. I think that's the King James version of it.
And that doesn't mean hold it up and get ready to wail on the guy again.
Take the guy's head off or something like that.
That doesn't mean that.
I think it means basically get ready, like put it back in the scabbard or whatever.
Yeah. And
the deal is, you see, like, you follow the narrative. And the important part of the narrative actually comes, it's not just put up thy sword, it's and then he heals the guy according to the story. He's taken in front of Pontius Pilate, the Roman, what would he be, procurator or something like that. He basically a tax farmer. He was there to get taxes for the Romans, and he'd be drawing taxes for himself too. So he'd be bleeding the people dry. He was not a nice guy. And Pilate, even though he wasn't that nice of a guy, he doesn't want to kill anyone unnecessarily and stuff like that. So he's looking for any way to get Jesus out of this predicament. Not any way, but he's looking for many ways. But first of all, he asks, because he's heard, this is what bothers him, like, are you the king of the Jews? Because, man, oh man, if he's strutting around saying he's the king of the Jews, it looks as though he wants to lead a rebellion against Pontius Pilate's boss, the Roman emperor. And Jesus basically says, yeah, I am, but he says, my kingdom is not of this world. And then he says, and this is the ending of this story about the sword. He says, if I were, don't you think I had my followers basically, like fighting and all this sort of stuff? It's a 3-part story. It's not, hey, load up on guns, to use the Kurt Cobain line. No. It's not that. So it's important to read these sorts of things in context, and that's why it's important to read all of the Old Testament. Because you read Leviticus 20:13, and then you say, oh, that's all part of the Bible, and Christians follow the Bible, and blah, 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 the way so many people do. Folk Gauchos in particular, but also Muslims, apologists for Islam and Muslims. And a lot of Christians do that too. Let's do the whole hog. And you just can't resolve the New Testament with a strict reading of the Old Testament. So the good thing is, I segued from finishing up reading the Old Testament, and I segued into, and I've read the New Testament so many times, I decided to, in different languages too, I decided to just plunk into the middle of it, or almost like the exact middle. I started with St. Paul, some people call him. Paul, I don't think he was that much of a saint, but he wasn't that much of a sinner either. Letters to various people. So I started with the letters to the Romans. And I got through half of the letters, the epistles, as some people call them, in the New Testament. There's only 130 pages of them, and I got through half of them. So I got through most of the letters of Paul, but there's still a lot more to go. I've read maybe 2/3 of them. But it was fascinating going from the Old Testament, where God in the Old Testament is not a God of love. He's a God of hatred and anger. It's that simple. You're supposed to fear him. In the New Testament, Paul actually says, this is amazing. He says, after I subjected myself to over 1,300 pages of Old Testament stuff, he says in one passage, and it's repeated, I think, at least once, maybe twice, in the course of less than a chapter. He says, I want you to be God's friend. Wow, that is a change of pace. That's like stopping so hard that you're getting your head put through the windshield practically. That's how I want God to be your friend and you to be God's friend. Yeah, that's different. Now, when I was a kid, I spoke like a child. No, when I was a kid, my mom, she didn't exactly force me, but she had me memorize half of the Psalms. That's a lot of it. There's 150 of them, as I recall. Half of the Proverbs. That would only be like 15 pages. But you try memorizing 15 pages of Proverbs. The Psalms themselves, I don't know. How much did she actually have me memorize? How many pages in this sort of stuff? Psalm 78, 75, 780. Job, get out of the way. Yeah, 50 pages. 50 pages of Psalms. You had me memorize 50 pages in this format, this book. Not the smallest pages, but they're not the biggest pages, but they're not the smallest either. So there, Psalms and Proverbs, I memorized 65 pages. Learned all of James, it's only like 5 pages. But I learned other stuff. So this one is amazing, because here's something like it's a whole chapter in 1 Corinthians. It's by Paul, so we're told. And it's the 13th chapter. And it's actually not a bad luck chapter. I may be able to speak in the languages of human beings and even of angels, but if I have no love, my speech is no more than a noisy gong or a clanging bell. I memorized the King James Version. This is the Good News Version. I may have the gift of inspired preaching. I may have all knowledge and understand all secrets. I may have all the faith needed to move mountains. But if I have no love, I am nothing. And he's done a lot of talk about faith, starting in Romans. Lots of talk about how important it is. It's more important than following the law. But here he's saying there's something even more important.
than that.
Okay? I may give away everything I have. That's charity. Now, it's poorly translated in the King James Version. The love is. But this is, he says, I may give away everything I have. That's charity, okay? He's saying that's not important, at least as important as the love. And even give up my body to be burned. And that's ultimately what he did. I think he got beheaded in Rome. But if I have no love, this does me no good. You see? So he's saying it's not good enough to have faith and stuff like that, and follow the law. You've actually got to love and follow the law. Love is patient and kind, is not jealous or conceited or proud. Love is not ill-mannered or selfish or irritable. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs. Love isn't happy with evil, but is happy with the truth. Love never gives up, and its faith, hope, and patience never fail. So later on he's going to talk about faith and hope, and he's actually saying they're part of love. See, love never gives up, and its faith, hope, and patience never fail. Love is eternal. There are inspired messages, but they are temporary. So that's would be like something like prophecy, right? There are gifts of speaking in strange tongues, and this is in a context of where he's been talking about these different gifts and stuff like that before and after this chapter. But they will cease. There is knowledge, but it will pass. For our gifts of knowledge and inspired messages only partial. But when what is perfect comes, then what is partial will disappear. When I was a child, my speech, feelings, and thinking were all those of a child. It's better, I think, in the King James Version, which is, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I felt like a child and thought as a child. It's better that way. It emphasizes the parallel. Now that I'm an adult, I have no more use for childish ways. And I think maybe it's better I put away childish things. The King James Version might be better. What we see now is like a dim image in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. What I know now is only partial. Then it will be complete as God's knowledge of me. Meanwhile, these three remain: faith, hope, and I almost said charity, but it's love. That's a translation. And the greatest of these is love. And that chapter here, it's not in the original. It's entitled Love. Christianity is about peace, love, and flowers in its original version. I'm not talking about Roman Catholicism, the stuff that was brought in by Constantine and solidified in its viciousness by Theodosius and many, many others, all the way through Torquemada and the Spanish Inquisition and other inquisitions. Christianity is about love, and you get it there from the greatest exponent of it, following Jesus, Paul. Okay, when I say greatest, I don't mean, oh, awesome. I mean, he's the one that did the most work. It's there. You see it? Printed? Love. So don't go around saying, as so many of you faux gauchers do, that Judaism and Christianity are violent too, just like Islam. Judaism is. And there's a reason for that. When Islam, which comes from the Judeo-Christian genealogy, when it comes down that branch of religion, when it has an option of, when Muhammad had the option of, do I go for the Jewish interpretation of things or the Christian interpretations? He goes, well, I'm going to go for the Jewish interpretation. Circumcision. unclean and clean foods,
Stoning.
Fighting for the religion, to defend it and also to spread it. In the case of the Jews, it was to spread into a land. It is a formula. It's a repeat soundbite. You're going to go into the promised land, and you're going to, it actually says, don't do it all in one gulp. Do it a little bit, advance a little bit. We could sit here all morning, and the one difference is, the one problem is, Muhammad went for Christians, and went for Christianity with one thing, and that was spreading the good news or the gospel. The Jews don't do that. They will take people in, and it's in the Old Testament. It says take some foreigners in if they want it. But you're not, it basically doesn't say anything about encouraging them to join up. But it's a formula in here about how you deal with foreigners. And they'd be proselytes, to use I'm pretty sure it's a Greek term. So, but even like in the case of missionary activity, like it's a shock. It's an absolute shock to go from the Old Testament to Paul, because all of a sudden he's trying to persuade people. The Old Testament it's not persuasion. It is enforcement. It is do this, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Whereas Paul all of a sudden is talking, because for since it's full of all sorts of at least quasi-philosophical discussion. It's discussion. And it's not discussion in the kind of discursive, you faux gauches. The Old Testament is discursive the way you're talking about. I think you get that from Michel Foucault. Foucault. I'm sorry for working blue. I apologize for using French. You know what I'm saying? Pardon my French, as people say in English. So you people know what I think of Michel Foucault, if you know any French. Horrible person. So this is discursive in the way things are supposed to be. You discuss things. You don't do the punishment type of thing, the way Foucault talks about. Discursive. That's a misuse of words, you idiots. Don't you understand? This guy, Foucault, was into power. He was S&M. I don't know which side of the equation he was on, or whether he went back and forth about it. But he's a horrible person. And of course he's going to interpret things in terms of power. But here you go. There's that thing. And I'm not taking a little verse and taking it out of context. It's in the context. And it occurs again and again and again. Christianity, in its original form, is about peace, love, and well, maybe not about flowers, but peace and love. So don't try that garbage with me by saying, well, it's violent too. It turned into violence. Check this out. I can remember saying to someone who taught at the university level,
and
Islam.
It certainly came from violence.
What?
It came from violence.
It comes out of violence. It's a response to it.
Yes.
Judaism.
Yeah.
So I said, this guy was saying, hey, you should take this Muslim course or Islamic course that I'm teaching. And I'm saying, I'd love to, but I believe in class participation, and I like my health and I like my life. And I said my health and life would be in danger because Islam is violent. And I have to say that. And he said, oh, like your life wouldn't be in danger. Oh, okay. It wasn't too far. Soon after that, they found a terrorist up in Calgary who'd been gone to the local university. A terrorist. An Al-Qaeda kind of puke. This guy seemed to have no idea of the risk that someone who's going to talk the truth about Islam is running. It was running back then and is running in our society. in all the Western societies, frankly. In Europe, it's very dangerous. Someone once said, not that
James's book.
recently, freedom of speech in Europe is dead, and that's because of Muslims. You can't speak the truth and expect your health to be survive intact. In Europe, many places in Europe, France and Holland, and Denmark apparently, and the so-called get away with it. So, yeah, but he was saying, he basically gave up the field. He said, well, Islam is so much younger than the other religions. Oh yeah? Like it's what? It's 1,400 years old. And Christianity is 600 years older than that. But you know, it's in the same ballpark as Christianity. You could say, oh, Christianity is violent because it's younger than Buddhism by 500 years or so. Or younger than Confucianism by 500 years or so. That won't wash. And the thing is, you see, like Christianity, actually, as the years went by, got way more violent. There's nothing in history that says a Christian or a particular religion is going to get less violent or more violent. All we got to do, I mean, there's a counterexample. The religion that I was raised in is pretty Pacific. I mean, it didn't even half of it didn't even believe in having an overall overarching organization between one congregation and another. It was kind of like anarchic at the congregational level. And how old is it? Oh, it's about 100 years old. You know, like Jainism is old, but has it gotten more violent? Has it got less violent? I don't know. I think it's about the same. You know, like so this idea that like Islam is violent because, and that was understood in what he was saying, because it's younger than the other religions. Well, that's just ridiculous. I understand the person that was saying, I like him, I respected him and stuff like that, but geez, he bought the party line about Islam, and he had all the arguments, like, no, read the stuff, read it all the way through, read it in the context of other religious stuff, so, and faith systems or belief systems, like read Mein Kampf, read the Communist Manifesto, or better, Das Kapital, the Capital, by Karl Marx. It's 3 volumes, but what the hey, people want to be strutting around, in the case of commies, goose-stepping around, telling the world what is and what isn't. You'd better find out what these idiots in Antifa and stuff like that are saying. So, there you go, the Old Testament. It is violent. That's why I was reading. That's what I was reading it for this time through. I read it several different times in different languages. Not nearly as many times as the New Testament. There's a lot of stuff in here, but I've gone through it more just in the course of my research. Bits of it here, bits of it there, and you can kind of lose track of the full force of it. The what's there generally, and what's there generally is violent, and it's violent in terms of how you treat people within the community. It's stoning for so many different things. Like here's a